Welcome to Systems Alliance. My name is Jexy, and in this video, we're going to go ahead and check out this weekend's box office report where Warner Brothers and DC Comics movie Joker finishes #1 and breaks an all-time record for a release in October. So coming in this week at #1, as I mentioned, is Joker, Todd Phillips' Joker, and it finishes domestically with $93.5 million, which is the largest opening ever, unadjusted for inflation, of course, but still the largest opening ever for an October release. If you're wondering what the previous record holder was, that would be Venom just last year with 80 million. So obviously this is much more than that, and Joker brought in a little over 13 million from Thursday night previews that was added into that. Not that Venom, of course, didn't have its own Thursday night previews, and what movie doesn't, but still, $93.5 million in October. That's a record, and considering Venom was at 80, which is not really that close, even when you factor in inflation, Joker still holds pretty strong. It's actually the fourth largest opening for an R-rated movie ever, and when you think about it, no R-rated movie has ever even topped $100 million in its opening. So it did come pretty close to that as well. Internationally, Joker opened in 73 markets, bringing in $140.5 million, so its global total now stands at $234 million. South Korea, the UK, Mexico, and Russia were Joker's top overseas markets, and it also opens up in Germany and France later on this week. This movie's core audience was definitely young males, as 2/3 of the audience was under 35 and also male. So normally you don't see movies skew that heavy, at least for larger movies, since they have to appeal to so many, but this one got its audience, and pretty much everyone in that audience seems to have seen it to get such an opening. It'll be interesting to see how Joker holds in the coming weeks. It does have a positive Rotten Tomatoes score, about 69-70% as of right now. Obviously the user score in Rotten Tomatoes, which with recent changes to their system holds less weight than it used to, but that's at 91%, so that's a pretty good number there as well. Now overall its cinema score was a B+, though the younger male crowd did give it an A-. B+'s generally don't hold over too well. That being said, who knows, maybe it doesn't need anybody but its core audience to hold very well. It'll be interesting to see what its second week drop is, and internationally how this movie holds in general. And as far as profitability goes, obviously you have the marketing budget, but the core budget for the movie was just $55 million. So already this movie is making its money back, and really it's already a hit for WB and DC, so you really can't go wrong with the Joker at this point in time. Coming in at #2 this weekend is the animated feature by Universal, Abominable, and this dropped 41.8% this weekend to bring in $14 million. Internationally, Abominable brought in $24.6 million this weekend, and its global total now stands at just over $76 million. But the problem with this movie is that this movie cost more than the Joker did at $55 million. Abominable cost $75 million. That's its budget. So when you compare the fact that it has a budget of $75 million and it's only made $76 million, this movie's going to have to make a lot more money than where it's currently at in order to turn a profit. In fact, right now, I would say I'm a little worried that it might actually lose money, even with a budget for an animated feature of just $75 million, which isn't a lot for a movie like that. But the fact that it's only brought in 76 to this point and it's in its second weekend, a little bit worrisome. And this weekend's international total was boosted by an opening in China, but that just brought in over 11 million. So normally that's your second biggest market. So this movie may actually end up losing money. That being said, animated features do tend to have longer legs than most, so maybe it can somehow break even. We'll just have to see. I'm personally not too high on this movie turning a profit. Coming in third this weekend, in its third week of release, bringing in $8 million and dropping 44%, is Downton Abbey. And this movie, unlike, say, Abominable that we just talked about, this movie only cost $20 million to make. Internationally, Downton Abbey brought in $6.6 million, and overall globally, its gross is $135 million. So with a budget of $20 million, this movie's already making tons of money, lots of multiples in there. So if this was a movie you wanted to be a success, then you're winning right now, because only $20 million budget? I mean, I guess it's not too expensive to have people dress like that, just, wardrobe. But Yeah, it's working. Obviously, the show went off air a few years ago, like what, 5 years ago or something like that? But the fans are still there, the supporters are still there, and anyone who was doubting that it would make money, well, you're just going to have to eat crow now because this movie is definitely a huge success. And speaking of huge successes, especially domestically, given their budgets, coming in at number 4 this weekend is Jennifer Lopez's Hustlers. Hustlers, in its 4th week of release, brought in 6.3 million, which is a 45% drop. It also brought in 1.9 million internationally. So its global total now stands over 110 million, which is great because its budget was also only $20 million. While this movie hasn't found a huge market internationally and it might have a slower release worldwide, even if it doesn't do well there, it doesn't even matter because domestically it's a hit on its own. So another movie, another hit, another profit for this studio, STX Entertainment. Now, coming in at number 5 this weekend is It Chapter 2. In its 5th week of release, it's still holding strong at the number 5 spot, and it brought in $5.35 million this weekend domestically, which is about a 48% drop, and it brought in $5.6 million internationally. Now, internationally, it still has Japan to go, and it currently sits at around $436 million. So obviously, it could grow a bit more. It's definitely one of the most successful horror movies ever, one of the most successful R-rated movies ever. However, it's definitely a far cry from where the first It opened up at. And obviously, many people have said this movie is not as good as the previous one. And obviously, that's a huge reason why it probably wouldn't open up as big. But still, holding strong, decent legs. It's already made its budget back with a budget of $79 million. And like I said, it's already closing in on 440. So no worries there. But a little disappointing when you consider where the first movie was at, which broke pretty much all the horror records that there ever were. So that wraps it up for this weekend's box office top 5. Let me know your thoughts on this weekend. Obviously, the main talk is going to be the Joker movie. What did you think about it? Did you see it? Do you think it deserves to be number 1 or at least have as big an opening as it did? Where do you think it finishes, both internationally and domestically? Do you think it's going to be one of the biggest comic book movies of all time? I mean, this is a pretty solid opening, just right around where Justice League finished, and Justice League finished at around 600 million. Will Joker get there? I'm sure you could easily argue it's a better movie, but does it have the appeal that even a bad Justice League movie had? Let me know your thoughts on that as well as the rest of the movies down in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Twitter, and we'll catch you next time.